Let me talk about women and their visibility. What are we going to do during this year of women and development, women empowerment and development? First and foremost, we have developed what we call Agenda 2063. This is an agenda which has really brought a woman into it, a woman face into it, to ensure that we focus on women because they do most of the work. Agriculture is the mainstay of the continent, and yet we have not been giving women the enough capacitation to do better agriculture. So we shall look at the technologies they need. We have already started discussing how we can reduce the drudgery they go through by using the hand hoe.
When we approach the issues related to agricultural development, thinking in mid and long term, we absolutely need to mainstream climate change issues. It means, first of all, in our plans, that climate issue has to be present. It has to be present through what we call climate smart agriculture, which is an agriculture which takes into account policies of adaptation. And secondly, the main actor for implementation of climate smart agriculture policies is the farmer. So the farmer has to be empowered with the necessary capabilities so that he can tackle these issues.
Women have to take things into their own hands, and women do. In South Africa, we have National Women's Day on the 9th of August. So August is Women's Month. So for the past 15 years, we've had the Farmer of the Year. And so there's this Farmer of the Year in all of the provinces, and we've also now have a category for young farmers. And so that we bring prominence, it's a big razzmatazz about it, and we draw attention to it, and we track those women. And it is so that the barriers to entry are more difficult for younger people who are entering, the new entrants, and for women. And we don't have an answer yet, but what we've put on the table is that we must have new models, funding models for new entrants.
I would like to think is a recognition, first of all, of the importance of women, of African women, in the development of the continent. So the African Union actually declaring a year for women empowerment, I think, is a recognition of their importance. And I would like to believe that that recognition came about on several accounts, but I would want to also credit the CAADP process that we have had and the last 2 years of the CAADP Sustaining Momentum that clearly demonstrated the significant contribution that women smallholder farmers made towards feeding Africans and generated income that they use to educate their families and contribute to their communities. So 2015 is that recognition for me. But secondly, I think it's a year that we need to move into action.
So we are now at a stage where we are saying implementation is key. So we need to begin to work. We have done enough process-oriented work. We have been talking, we have been meeting as stakeholders in workshops, we have done a lot of policy dialogue, and we now know where we need to put our investment dollar. So it is time for us to begin to implement. So when we talk about walking the talk, we are saying it is time to begin full-scale implementation of what we have committed ourselves to do. And this will be done within the context of the Malabo Declaration.
The critical challenges we're having are particularly women cannot borrow because they don't have a lot of collaterals. It's even worse for young men and women who don't have collaterals, but they are fairly educated, they have the zeal, they are very strong. If they have the financial might, they can actually put up some. So for FAO, I believe as a technical partner to all our countries in Africa and also to the AU and the regional economic commissions and communities, I believe we have excellent technical knowledge over the last 70 years, which we can actually partner to say, okay, these are the proposals we have. If you follow this, let's see. If you have some priority which you can modify, and then let's give you a project that is viable, is feasible, is bankable, is profitable, it can generate incomes, it can also provide livelihoods and employment for majority of our people in Africa.
A lot of these issues that women face are very much the issues that smallholder farmers and entrepreneurs face. Access to infrastructure, access to water, the operating environment, access to appropriate services and cost-efficient services, access to finance, and of course access to land. For women it becomes more difficult because they sort of sit within that space which is still impacted upon by gender stereotyping. It's impacted upon by gender, the perception around gender roles in society. And what is interesting about that, and I think this was research done not just in Kenya but also in Afghanistan, once women get into value-added, high income generating activities, they get into conflict within their families because the assumption is that the big monies should be coming to the men. So one finds in some cases that women will underplay the degree to which they're successful, which may actually distort the extent of success that government programs are having. So when women get involved in these issues, one needs to make sure that we are also confronting the gender biases in society.
As you know, the core mandate of FAO as a specialized UN agency is to provide technical support and technical assistance on all matters pertaining to agriculture, food security, forestry, fisheries, with a bid to eradicating hunger. That technical support resonates very well with the CAADP principles as well as the objectives of the African Union. Everyone in the world today is worried about the inability of Africa to eradicate hunger and food insecurity. So FAO, with its technical knowledge and comparative advantage, is very well positioned to support member countries primarily, but also the private sector and farmers in realizing the objectives of ending hunger in Africa.
Yes, in fact, that is an important question because we want to emphasize that where we are today in terms of picking up on Malabo Declaration is also in the same sentence to say this is to build on Maputo. That is a very important aspect to understand because without that then we may miss the point. And what are we building on Maputo? Maputo had two targets, 6% and 10%. And of course, in terms of 10%, we don't have many, just about 10 countries that are actually above 10%. But when you look further, you find that the majority of the countries, and I'm talking about over 40 countries, are actually on the positive trend compared to what was happening in the pre-2003 scenario, where those that were doing well were actually stagnant. So the trend is positive, we are not yet there, and therefore there is actually a recommitment to increase public financing to agriculture. And in Malabo, even going further to say it's not just about the volumes, but we're also going to assess, we're going to measure the quality of investments vis-a-vis results.